user-supported website about video games, the internet, and everything that comes after. Aftermath is fully reader-supported at this time, so if you like what you hear, you can subscribe at aftermath.site/products. If money is tight at the moment, we'd really appreciate it if you left a review of the show on Apple, Spotify, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. Today we are talking about shootings as shitposts and the media and censorship of media following Charlie Kirk's death. And then after that, in slightly lighter subject matter, Silksong. I'm Nathan Grayson, and I'm joined by Chris Person.
Hey guys, what's going on?
And special guest, Morgan Song of KQED and NPR's Close All Tabs podcast.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on. Since you were not able to join for karaoke last night, the least you could do is join for the podcast.
I was hustling to get this podcast episode out, okay? I did fall asleep when I was supposed to meet Nathan for karaoke.
Yeah, it happens to the best of us. But yeah, so I mean, you just put out a podcast episode about, I think, a lot of things that people have been discussing recently surrounding the death of Charlie Kirk, namely sort of the memes involved and the kind of, I think what many people would consider to be like the coded internet language underlying, his efforts to not really even explain himself. It really does seem like he was just memeing, and that kind of broke a lot of people's brains. And so why did you decide to do an episode of your show about that? And also more broadly, just for those who've not listened to it, what is your show about?
Oh, also before we continue really quick, could you just turn your audio just a hair up?
Of course.
Just to gain a little bit up.
How's that? Good?
I think so. Yes.
Lean forward? Yes?
Yeah.
Sounding good? Okay, cool. So Close All Tabs is a weekly deep dive from KQED, the Bay Area's NPR station. And it's basically like we structure it like you would a regular deep dive, like when you have a nagging question that you have to like look up in the moment, and then you look it up, you Google it, and then that question leads you to more questions, and you kind of just keep opening tabs until you feel like you're drowning. So the whole point of the show is like, we do that for you. We kind of like give you that kind of condensed, we help you scratch that itch without like feeling like you're overwhelmed. And we decided to cover this kind of last minute. We usually start working on episodes a couple weeks out because they're pretty heavily sound designed, and we like to take our time, really fleshing out these deep dives. But last minute we were like, okay, there's like the meme aspect of it is huge, but also kind of trying to make sense of it, also seeing the censorship online of how people were reacting to it and facing like pretty disproportionate repercussions. And so we were like, we need to cover it. We need to kind of just make sense of like the memes, and in the attempt to make sense, we realized like this is just a shit post. Like there's really not, I think it's pretty counterproductive in a lot of scenarios to try to assign certain internet spaces or certain internet references to like a strict left right. And I think this is a pretty good example of like why these don't always fall on the like linear political spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's
that was.
Go ahead.
That was something that definitely stood out in the episode, is sort of, when you got to the part of the discussion where you were talking about the ways that these things don't necessarily land on this sort of like hard left-right part of the political spectrum, in part because a lot of people don't really feel like they're being served by either major political party. And so, they'll often identify as independents. They will often have kind of incoherent political kind of like value sets. And yeah, that really stood out to me as like indicative of where, on one hand, the larger like discussion of a network like CNN or even a platform like Twitter is at, versus where actual people are at, and like how you end up getting somebody who effectively does a shooting as a shitpost.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think our source for this episode, Aiden Walker, he's a meme researcher who literally has like a degree in like this kind of thing. But the way he put it was really interesting. He pointed out like how nihilistic a lot of the internet is, and how that nihilism isn't really reflected or addressed in either political party. Like this is something that is so pervasive and also so overlooked that a lot of people just feel left out of the discussion entirely. I mean, yeah, I'm just thinking of like the way Twitter was so quick to try to blame the Groypers for this, trying to find trying to find a way that these references could be proof that this was the far right, right? Whereas like a lot of conservative mainstream media was blaming the left. In reality, like if you look at the court documents released after the alleged shooter was arrested, his politics seem a bit incomprehensible, just like a shitpost.
Yeah.
This is disruptive and incoherent.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like even like Luigi Mangiane's politics were incoherent. You know what I mean? Like if
right.
you're going to take a person's life in a really public and high profile manner, chances are you're like both not mentally well and also a median voter, and the median American voter has incoherent politics, particularly younger people. I feel like there is this sort of, millennial, Zoomer, and then Gen Alpha like divide, but where like politics is almost like, particularly like post 2020, like feels almost, I don't know, like if younger people are going to come around to politics the way that like millennials did during the Bernie era, but it does feel a little more like nothing really matters, like kind of nihilistic in younger groups. And I don't know what that means, but also like, yeah, if there was a drive to like say this person seems right wing, it's only because like that's usually kind of like usually that happens. Like usually there is
statistically, yes, it's overwhelmingly
true.
Like
a manosphere style thing. Also, I want to say,
yeah,
weird backstory for me. I did used to technically work for Know Your Meme.
Wow, so did our main source in this episode, Aiden.
Yeah, you can see that. I know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that point is really resonant. Like a lot of millennials, or a lot of people in a certain age group, like we're coming into political consciousness in 2016, right? Like I think that was my first real presidential election that I was old enough to vote in. And like back then the social media landscape looked totally different. Like there was a kind of universal town square aspect of it where everyone's talking over each other, but they're all talking over each other in one place. And now we're so algorithmically like siloed that a lot of the so-called like mainstream spaces aren't necessarily as mainstream as we think that they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you're talking about like Twitter is a place where a lot of this political conversation happens, but it's always been relatively small in terms of user base. Its main tool is like relative proximity to power. But even then, like I think that its relevance has, for the past like decade been on the wane, or at least in various ways has been on the wane.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, instead you just have all these different places where conversation unfolds. And then I think that the like really big and salient point is that, again, like you were talking about the different way, or the ways that different generations came up surrounding politics. And I think that millennials kind of had the benefit, or maybe benefit, of growing up like in the Obama era, in this time when there was a belief that like electoral politics could accomplish something, and that maybe the system could be bent to your will if you just like found this one perfect, like golden god of a political figure. And then that didn't work. And so that made a lot of millennials cynical, but others still have this built-in belief that like, nah, if we just vote hard enough, we can do it. We can turn things around.
Call your
and then I
vets,
think that
right?
Gen Z and now Gen Alpha are being exposed to this reality of like, no, that's it won't work, or rather, that's the impression they come away with. So they are despondent. They barely engage in the political system outside of like this nihilism and memes and stuff like that. But otherwise, like it's never served me, and my future prospects are hopeless. Never going to own a house. I'm never going to retire. Fuck all this.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think like, do you remember the Obama optimism on Tumblr? Like when Obama was campaigning for a second term and they were using Tumblr. I feel like I think the Democratic Party was really trying to capture that kind of optimism on TikTok in the last presidential election, and like it was there, but like not quite, right? And I do think it is like that kind of generational divide of like people are cynical now, and people aren't as engaged because they're more cynical.
Yeah.
I do think, though, that you do get, like, I mean, I wonder if it's just, like, people grow out of that, like Clockwork Orange, parentheses, the book style, like, it is just this, like, the nihilism of youth is an inevitability that it gives way to sort of introspection eventually, and, there's not that comes.
I would say that I would say that might be true in a more functional system, but I think that our current politicians and our current political apparatus reflects that nihilism back at them
Yeah,
and
of
that
course.
cynicism.
I
Like
get it.
everyone is a deeply cynical, bad faith operator. And when you see that day in and day out, you can't help but sort of be shaped by it and ultimately think, yeah, that none of this works and all everyone's out to get me
But
or
but
out to
also
take
like
advantage of me.
but also like that doesn't necessarily mean that you stop, that you necessarily give up. Do you know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I don't think it necessarily means you think change is impossible. It just means that you're very practical in and very like direct in how those things happen, and sometimes that might actually involve political violence, and but like I think it's just a more kind of like realpolitik. Maybe it manifests in other people, and for other people they're just completely checked out and they're just like, nothing
Yeah.
matters, I want to
I will say, I think like the difference is in the like millennials or like older Gen Z, even younger millennials, I think had that kind of optimism in the system, a kind of like trust in the system, whereas younger generations probably don't like they were never part of it. They were never engaged with it
Mhm.
because they never had that chance in the first place.
yeah.
Right. Right. They never had that chance. And instead, again, they just like they entered this world being bombarded with the message of like, shit's fucked. You're never going to be able to do the things that previous generations got to in terms of having means and like, or even a family potentially, all of these things that you were told that you deserve and that are part of the like fundamental human experience, but that you in particular and those after just are not going to get. Like that kind of thing again, like I don't think this is happening to everybody, but I can certainly see how that would turn someone into like, a kind of nihilist meme person. And then on top of that, you have the like added factor that it does seem like, you know, he was opposed to the hatred that he saw somebody like Charlie Kirk spewing,
Hmm.
which is an understandable place to come from. I mean, are the Republicans going to use it as ammo to strip everyone of free speech rights? Absolutely.
For sure.
But like you can sort of look at that underlying motivation and say, yeah, I don't love all of the hate that people are spewing either. I would like that to be less of a thing. I'm not going to do a murder about it, but it would be neat if people cut that shit out.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think it really does like show in like the messages that were found on like the bullet casings, in like
Mhm.
the exchange, like the Discord messages, like cited in the court documents, there is this kind of like detachment that I think speaks that not like you said, not everyone will resort to this level of like political violence and like horrific acts. But I do think that a lot of that sentiment is probably pretty common.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And so, like, with the episode that you released, in kind of digging into the memes inscribed on the bullets and like these specific memes that I think people were discussing, like, even though that was maybe off the mark, like gropers and stuff like that, following kind of the shooting. What were you like trying to convey? What did you think was the most important thing to convey about these kind of like niche internet memes, to your audience, which I assume is probably normies?
I think, yeah, translating for like a public radio audience. I think like just seeing the way that a lot of more legacy traditional media organizations were covering the memes, did kind of break my brain. Seeing like Notice's bulge be like dissected in like the New York Times did, I think, kind of break my brain because these memes are niche, right? They're like pretty absurdist, but they're not the most obscure possible references. Like they are niche to the mainstream, but like Aiden said in our episode, like the mainstream, so-called mainstream, is like just one of many, many niches. And so like these memes are very well known to many people in other corners of the internet where like so-called normies don't necessarily inhabit, but there are more of those corners than people think, right? And
Mhm.
so I think we were trying to show like these memes aren't inherently radical. They aren't inherently like loaded with like political motive. They're just memes, and like that makes this more of a shitpost, which is incoherent and disruptive.
Mhm.
It was fascinating to see everybody get their podcast episode out and figure out which people knew how to pronounce uwo. or uwu.
Well, something
Oh, but
I had
people
to
would be like, it's
really
OWO. What does that mean? And it's like, bro, come on. That's old
It's
as
I mean,
fuck.
it's an interpolation of World of Warcraft, I think.
I saw someone say it was a misspelling of wow, and I was like,
Right.
well, okay,
Come
I guess
on. Like,
you
I'm
really,
Man, I've
fucking.
misspelled a lot of words in
yeah.
my
I'm in
life.
my.
Never misspelled wow.
I'm in my late 30s. I know what that is, man. Come on.
Something I never thought I would have to do while working for a public radio outlet was differentiate between uwu and owo. But I did it, you know, and that's internet culture coverage, baby.
Mhm. Well, yeah, I mean, sort of tying into that, there's been at least some discussion, I think, following this of kind of the importance of having, like internet literate reporters around at your publication. And like it stands out to me that I covered that beat for a while at the Washington Post. I was laid off. You were at TechCrunch for a while. You were laid off. It seems like these publications are not ready to meet this moment at all. And now here we are. And so, I mean, how are you sort of, I guess, feeling about the broader landscape in that regard? And do you think that there's any way that these publications can kind of get up to speed quickly enough to, I guess, interact with and kind of contextualize this new world that we're in? Or have they already hamstrung themselves and now we're just seeing the results?
Yeah, you know, it is pretty bleak, you know, thinking about this. Yeah, like you said, I think there was a real golden era of media organizations being like, the internet, we should cover that. And we should
Mhm.
get some people who are actually online to cover that. And they did. And then they were like, actually, we're pivoting, you know, or actually, we're going to cover like Silicon Valley. Actually, we're going to do this instead. We're going to
AI.
and I think like I think like internet culture or just like the internet as a beat has been pretty devalued. Taylor Lorenz wrote a great piece, I think in the Hollywood Reporter. I think it's in the Hollywood Reporter.
Mhm.
And she compared like she made this comparison where she was like, you wouldn't send an unseasoned reporter out into a battlefield to cover a war. Like, why would you send someone who is not a digital native and not like already immersed in these spaces naturally to go cover these breaking stories? And I think like part of me is like, yeah, it's really bleak.
Mhm.
Optimistically, I'm like, maybe something like this will wake people up and like wake up these traditional media organizations and show them how valuable it is. At the same time, we also have seen the way media works and the way things go, and I do kind of worry that this this difference between the way traditional media organizations that adhere to like journalistic standards and fact checking and like all these standards that a lot of like content creators don't have to adhere to, the way that they're failing to cover these spaces is pushing, it will probably push people further into like following content creators for their news
Mhm.
instead of, you know, independent journalists even. Um, and those there is a space for that. You know, there is like a lot of value in the people that cover this kind of thing on TikTok. But
Mhm.
again, like they're not like adhering to the journalistic standards that a lot of journalists have had to. And so like
Right.
I think about like the recent Wired story about like the Democratic influencers
And
taking
about
dark
chorus.
money, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like, where are people getting this news then? Like, if it's not being covered by these people, by like traditional news organizations anymore, but also like influencers and like content creators can take money and be paid off to not cover or to cover certain stories, then like, where do you get these actual authentic stories anymore?
Mhm.
It's pretty bleak.
Yeah. And like, what's the incentive structure? As usual, it's
Right.
mostly getting views, and then in some cases now getting money, dark money, which is not
Mhm.
awesome. And then even beyond that, a lot of the influencers that talk about these subjects are right wing because the chorus stuff, the funding from
Exactly.
Democratic groups, that was for liberal influencers who do not make up, I would say, a majority of the political commentariat online.
Mhm.
Instead, it's a lot of far right types. Even, Charlie Kirk was one of them for a minute there. But like I've been doing a lot of looking into kind of the I guess like campaigns carried out by people like Asmongold in the wake of all of this to get game developers fired and whatnot.
Mhm.
And like that's the incentive structure for people like him is not just to convey information, but to weaponize information in order to achieve an end. And in his case, that end is harassing people and driving them out of the public sphere,
I,
which,
Exactly.
not good.
Also, I don't know. I'm not excited for whatever. I hope I sound good right now. I hope I'm not excited for whatever happens to TikTok next. Either it collapses on itself when they buy it and then like
Hmm.
cordoned it off so we only have America talk or whatever, or
Hmm.
they have this weird thing where it's just a shitty version of TikTok, or it works the same but it's tuned exclusively to Mark Andreessen's bidding.
Hmm.
Like all of those are bad, and I don't see them. And considering how the degree to which like people get their information almost exclusively from TikTok very quickly. Like short form
Hmm.
video is
Right.
like, I'm sorry, it won. I hate that it won. I think that we are in the dark timeline because I think vertical short form video is atrocious. For except this one that you're watching right now, if we turn this into a TikTok,
This one's fine.
this one's
Yeah,
fine.
this is the
But
best one ever
this is
made.
the best
Actually,
one.
shut it down
Actually,
after
yeah,
this.
it's great. We're do you want me to do ASMR or shit? I don't care. But also one thing I'm kind of mad is that the this is sort of a minor thing. I'm mad that if they were gonna steal a furry meme, it wasn't inflates you making you big and round, because I think that one would have worked better with the uh
It's a hot take.
yeah, it's just it's a better meme. It's 2000, 2021.
I mean, it was a pretty deep cut for a meme, honestly.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. But no, I worry about short form video from an accountability perspective. Like YouTube's in a really weird place. I don't think it's not dying. It's actually doing, I think, in some ways better than it always has been. It's just like the economy's weird and they have to compete with like how eyes are fluctuating back and forth between that and TikTok, and it's like the algorithm's fucking weird now, and they're like suspect to the same forces that all of these things are, and I worry about how that downstream effect on what is left of journalism, I guess you could say.
Mhm. Yeah. But yeah, and then you also have the fact that, and we haven't even discussed this yet, we are seeing an obvious like government crackdown on free speech as it pertains to politics and political subjects. Basically, any criticism of Trump and his administration and Charlie Kirk, especially, that's sort of like what they're using as the wedge. But yeah, I mean, literally just yesterday, Jimmy Kimmel got indefinitely removed from air as a result of an extremely tame remark regarding, Charlie Kirk related stuff. Prior to that, Colbert lost his job as a result of the Paramount merger, which also was an attempt to appease Trump. Like all of these major corporations realize that where the money is at, and the money is in kowtowing to fascism. So they're going to keep doing it, meaning that now you have these like media institutions that will no longer, to the extent that they ever did, speak truth to power. I mean, they didn't during things like Palestine, but they still had some degree of ability to kind of say what they wanted to. I think that is no longer the case. And so then where does that kind of commentary migrate? I mean, it's on the internet to a degree, but all it will take from the platform holders is one tweak of the algorithm to bury it. So, it's again a kind of bleak situation.
Yeah, I mean, we're already seeing that. Like, we're already seeing the way like independent content creators are getting punished, for talking about certain things, whether it's the way that, they made a certain TikTok and people just like mass called their jobs, right? But then they're
Mhm.
also like sex workers have been warning us about like how the overturning of or how the passage of Sesta Fosta will make the internet a quieter place. And we've seen that really ramp up in the last couple of years. I mean, you guys covered this pretty closely, the way like games are getting
Mhm.
censored and the way that like sexual content is getting censored. Like that was the like these platforms don't have a lot of incentive to protect free speech right now.
Mhm. Yeah, they basically none, because as soon as when they make a stand in the name of free speech, then they
Mhm.
risk their ability to make money, whether that is from users directly or more likely from corporations, from financial institutions, from all of these like censorious elements that would rather just tamp down all of that as opposed to like say, oh, this is a core American value, and we'll take a hit to our bottom line if it means standing up for what's right, because no corporation has ever thought that way, and they never will. Um,
Right.
yeah. But I mean, with that in mind, there was at least like last night on Blue Sky some discussion of this notion of like, well, yeah, then the it now falls to like independent media to kind of take up the torch and at least try to convey the things that mainstream media no longer will because they are being censored so overtly. Which on one hand, like pat on the back, yay, aftermath, we're gonna guide the way to the future. But also at the same time, like I guess especially given that like Morgan, you've been working with like an affiliate station of NPR, which in turn was defunded by the government over the summer. Like, how do you feel about, I
Bad
guess, that
times.
call? Yeah. How do you feel about like this idea of independent media being able to sort of step into those shoes? Do you think that's even possible? Or like, working with a larger apparatus like this, do you think like that's kind of wishful thinking?
I mean, it's really difficult, right? Because I think working with within a bigger organization, it does afford you a lot more fact checking, a more manpower, right? It affords you more like legal protection to some degree. But at the same time, like if these institutions aren't as safe as they used to be, like will independent publications be any safer, right? Like if the Trump administration decides to go after a worker-owned website, like
Mm-hmm.
what protections are there in that case? And I think that's a lot. I think a lot of that's unexplored. And I don't know. It's just bleak, and I worry for people who get their news as like a quick summary from TikTok or like from Twitch, right?
Right.
I'm
Because
also
like
worried
that's the
about.
other difference is people can't really. A lot of people I don't think necessarily differentiate between like legacy journalists and independent journalists and content creators.
No, they super don't.
There's
I mean, a lot of people
yeah, like
now,
they're
I've
all
seen
lumped
many
together.
instances online of somebody just saying like, I'm a reporter and this is the breaking or whatever, like in their message. And people just like eat that up hook, line, and sinker, even though it turns out it's just like some rando who, decided to call
Hmm.
themselves a reporter one day with no like
Yeah.
training, no real understanding of the words that they're throwing around. And it's like, yeah, I think that that's a larger symptom of like so many different institutions collapsing and people still hungering for some sort of like institutional grounding in what they're hearing. Just
Yeah.
this idea of like, there's authority behind this, that there's some form of expertise, but then at the same time, the very notion of expertise is now being decried. And so there's this like, these complete competing desires for, the confidence that one would gain from an expert, but then also like, oh, we don't trust experts though. They're all like hidden in the shadows behind like the walls of various institutions, and those have been doing us wrong for decades, and blah 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 blah. So it's like, what do you pull from? I guess like the wreckage of all of that.
Also,
Right. And I'm like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was also going to say before I forget, I too am worried about small independently owned uh, websites being taken down and being silenced. And unrelated, I want to introduce a new segment, the FCC chair Brendan Carr Appreciation Hour. It's unrelated to any of this. We love you, Brendan. Keep shine on, you crazy diamond. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
your
yeah.
free
You're
aftermath
great.
sub
I
will exist in perpetuity. We will never unsub you, no matter what.
didn't realize you
If
were
we have
40.
one fan, if we have 100 fans, he's one of them. If we have 0 fans, he's dead.
Yeah.
But not by our
Yeah.
hand.
And I didn't realize he was 46. You look great for your age.
Hairline intact.
Hairline intact. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just saying like what Nathan was saying was really reminding me of like Substack, for example, has a legal fund for certain creators. Once you meet a certain threshold, you can qualify for this fund, I'm pretty sure. But at the same time, it's like that's not necessarily it's a pretty high threshold, right? And like it's a case by case basis apparently. I don't know a lot of the details of it, but
Uh,
it's like so there are some protections, but then at that point, like how independent are you really, like at
mhm.
that point. So it's a hard thing, right? Like what you said, there is this idea of like people wanting like true authentic stories from the source, like independently, but also like that's just not always feasible sometimes.
Mhm. Well, yeah, or even like, because what you're describing from Substack, I would assume is very conditional even beyond like the threshold that you hit. I'm guessing Substack probably does not have to defend you if they don't want to.
Mhm.
And I mean, given how these companies and organizations tend to work, I could easily see a situation where they will not go to bat for somebody who's very far left, but they would defend like a Nazi. I mean, we've already seen Substack be like, yeah, well,
Mhm.
we got to stick up for Nazis. Additionally, the amount of money that you get in these things, like I can provide some insight. Aftermath, like we recently finally managed to get media liability insurance, which is great because it means that if we get sued, then we actually are able to defend ourselves to some degree without going bankrupt. But even then, that goes up to like $1 million, which sounds like a lot of money. But what if we get sued by the United States government? Then who wins? Little like $1 million uwu website or trillions of dollars government?
Right.
We're going to be
Or
taken off
or
the air.
even
They're going to
worse, like
talk to our they're going to talk to our owners, and they're going to say, "Hey, knock it off, cancel them." And
Mhm. Yeah,
and
that's
also
the
make an
one.
apology and also donate to Turning Point. Like,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
donate to Turning Point USA. I mean, that is my like one bit of solace
Mhm.
is that, like during this cancel crusade that a bunch of people on the right are on right now, like, because I've been going through their tweets again to write a story about all of it, and like one of the people that they tried to go after, at least for a second, was me, and I was like, but you can't do anything. You can't get me fired. Like you can't you can't pressure the
Does
website to
your
take down
employer
my
know?
work. Exactly. It's like
we're just going to
he's well
do
Does
aware.
Mr. Aftermath know about this?
we need to do
Right.
we need to do the we need to figure out how to do the thing when you call like a real motherfucker of a call center, and they do the thing where you try to escalate and they just are clearly like just handing the phone to the person next to them being like, you take care of this guy, and then you escalate it back and they go back and forth. We should just do that with like
We
I
could
should
even get
take
special
gifts, right?
guests. We could like pass it off to people who are at 404, people at Hellgate. We could like really get some, interesting names and voices in
just
there.
imagining
But wait a
Jason
minute, I know you.
Jason being like, okay, I'll talk to him.
Start a network, right? Like, pass it along.
Mhm. um, but yeah, with all of the independent media talk in mind, I did want to ask, considering that state of things, and uh, is Rat House gonna come back?
Okay, so I want to
Uh-huh.
eventually, right? My beloved
Uh-huh.
newsletter Rat House. I had to put it on hiatus and like pause everything because I started working on this show, Close All Tabs from KQED. Out wherever you listen, wherever you get your podcasts, rate and review us. But I think like we have a pretty small team, right? With Close All Tabs. We just got our beloved producer full time. We just got like a second most of the time editor, and so it's hard when we're all wearing multiple hats. And but I don't know. We'll see. I do want to bring it back though. I miss Rat House.
Mhm. Yeah, it was a good newsletter. I
Thank
enjoyed
you.
it.
I know it's hard to have so many takes when it's hard to write your take when you're also writing and reporting and hosting a 30-minute weekly show.
Yeah, don't gotta
And
tell
then
me
also
twice.
running all the socials for it. No one tells you how much effort goes into posting all the
Uh-huh.
time. I used to post for fun. Now I'm like, why am I optimizing my posting?
Uh-huh.
It's true.
Oh man.
I do.
I'm so bummed that TikTok is about to die because I finally was like getting our numbers to go up and I was like, oh, this is sort of exciting. And
I
now it's gonna get
know.
turned into, a United States propaganda slot farm as opposed to a regular slot farm,
We
I
just
know.
which it
gotta
already
we
is.
just gotta pivot, man. We just gotta do they're over the woke stuff. They're over the
Yeah,
anti-woke
we
stuff.
gotta start vice signaling. We gotta be far right grifters. We gotta just really lean
Right.
into it.
I'm gonna get
Yeah.
into
This is the
cigars,
chance.
and
Mhm.
I'm gonna get into cigar guy culture. I think I can learn Wim Hof breathing.
Oh,
Uh,
definitely. My dad actually already knows that. I can just have
you
him
can
teach you.
just show me Wim Hof
You
breathing.
guys gotta get really crunchy, right? You gotta get
Yeah.
really into like your bone broth and like your beef tallow.
Okay,
That's right.
the
Yeah.
funny thing
Get
is,
rid of seed oils. Fuck them.
hold on, I need to take some vitamins. The funny thing is, I am actually like every time I see like a guy who's like a nootropics guy or a wellness guy, I'm like, the problem is I'm enough of a fucking like drug nerd to be like, okay, I see what you're doing and you're wrong, but I know how you got there because my brain is like going on like Airwood and then
Uh-huh.
bodybuilding.com forums, and I know it's a combination of those two. So I could do the sort of like Rogan nootropics one where I talk about like reishi mushrooms or something. I don't know.
Oh man, Chris, what's your
Look, I could
stack?
get really into biohacking.
Just
I
take
was
creatine
like, I
and
had an aura
vitamins.
ring once until I realized that it was a privacy hellscape. But I do
I
kind of miss it. I miss getting my score.
I will say I did just order the AirPods Pros 3 because they have a heart rate monitor in them.
Mhm.
And because I fucking hate that I say this, but like I trust Apple with my data more than any other, like more than any other company that does that stuff. They are unfortunately like the least bad about it.
Evil.
They are still evil. They
Yeah.
are still evil, but I don't know
Yeah.
anybody
I'm
else who can do a fucking heart rate monitor that is not an ugly ass watch.
It's true. It's true, right? And I'm like, I think I really hate that. This is total side note. I just hate that. Like every decision you have to make about tech, it's like, which is the least evil?
Uh-huh.
Which one is going to be the least like the least horrendous about selling my information?
I
And I'm
literally
like, Apple,
did you
they're I
see?
feel like they're not going to.
Well, they kind of they're good at that like historically. They're annoying for other
Right.
reasons. They fuck you over for other reasons. It's ecosystemic.
Totally.
But I will say the two things that I've seen the last 24 hours is one, we published a thing on the really bad presentation that Facebook
Yeah.
did
Oh, the meta
for the
one.
meta
Yeah.
ones,
Oh,
which is
that
like
was
crazy because like the
that makes me
technology.
feel bad for Zuck. Like
Well, the
he
technology in
was
those
so
things is good.
sad.
That's the fucked up thing. Is like
Yeah.
they actually I've known people who have like worked at like a section of Facebook that was like clearly a hearing device, like a health company that got bought by them, and they just like do this like dragon hoarding shit where they'll just buy things and it's like, well, we'll make the money back on these glasses cost $10,000 each for our like AR ones, but we'll get them back just because of the lenses. By making them better eventually. And it's just the sheer amount of money they put into making ugly fucking glasses that I don't want to read and I don't want to use. But like
And that lose Wi-Fi access.
they have like one cool thing in them, which is, man, it would be cool if I had glasses that recorded my biking trip in case I got hit by a car. That's literally the only use case because I bike in fucking New York, and that's like, yes,
Can't you
I
just get a
needed.
dash cam?
Well, you put a fucking yeah, but then you have like a dash
Yeah.
cam on your head, and it's like fucking bad, and it's like okay, and that's how I feel. They made the Children of Men device. Do you remember the scene in Children of Men where he has like the 25-year-old who's stimming and he's like playing with his hypercube or something like that, and he's got like a little hand device that does like that. They made that. They made a thing that takes like actual like impulses from your wrist so that you can control it, and it didn't work and it sucked to use because it's a fucking Facebook thing, and it's not, the firmware probably sucks dick, you know, it's probably not very good, but like it as a device it's fascinating. And like the other thing was like Samsung announcing that they're adding ads to smart fridges. They're like, oh, we're opting you into the smart fridge that you
Yeah, no,
already
wait.
have.
I want my fridge to have surge pricing. I want to open it,
Yeah.
and then I've got to spend like an extra $5 to access my cheese
Okay.
stick.
So
My,
I
like-
went down the rabbit hole of, has anybody rooted the Samsung Family Hub, which is the thing that it does? And the answer is it uses a really annoying version of Android that like sucks to use and can only use that specific version of those apps. And the best thing you're going to do is throw a Raspberry Pi in there and be like, okay. But like at that point, why fucking bother? Just get an iPad and a camera, like a camera for the inside of your fridge or something like that, if you really want that
Yeah.
functionality.
I will
Um,
say my landlord replaced our very broken fridge finally forever ago with one of those like the lowest tier Samsung smart fridge. And by smart fridge, I just mean it like connects to your phone and
Yeah.
you can set the temperature. But it was really wonky a while ago, and it just kept sending notification after notification to my phone. Like my phone was going off every 5 minutes saying like temperature's not stable, temperature's not stable. And it was so annoying.
Yeah,
I
it's like the
actually
vibes are off.
I tried changing the temperature within the fridge, and they were like, no, you have to do it on the app. And I tried doing it in the app, and it was like, we're sending you 15 more push notifications.
Maybe it
You
was
know
just
what?
lonely.
We got to go back to the
Maybe it
Luddites.
just wanted to hang out.
Well-
It was so annoying. And then our washer dryer is also Samsung now, so that's on the app. And I'm like all these things, and our TV. And so every time someone uses the washer dryer or the fridge, it alerts our TV and interrupts my YouTube video essay watching time. And I'm like, this is too much. We need to get rid of all of it.
No, but the thing is, like, I always go against the Luddite impulse, because every time somebody's like sees a story like that, they're like, and this is why I only use candles instead of smart bulbs. And it's like, I fucking hate that shit so much. No, you're not impressing anybody. But the thing is that is interesting is, no, you need to get the weird version of the firmware that like a non-binary furry put on GitHub. They spent like, they rewrote the whole thing in Rust, and now it works great, but only if you have Home Assistant and can write YAML. Like, that's what I want, because I'm a freak.
I have to
and
check
nobody
my lease and see. Does it break? Would I be violating my lease by hacking my landlord provided fridge? Like,
I think, well, the thing about it is, like, there's probably an extension for Home Assistant that lets you do it, but the more annoying thing is just that, like, yeah, I don't, like, they don't want to give you anything that, like, works except with an extremely annoying way, but the actual hardware is it all just comes from the same, like, it's all the same, like, ESP32s and, like, weird little fucking, like, it's all the same boards, and they're all running open source stuff that's been made evil. And I just hate it so much. I hate it so much. It's all just Android.
all I'll say,
it's all Android tablets.
when we hooked it up to the app and whatnot, I was just like, I don't want them to have it, because it records every time you open the fridge, right? I was like, I would rather a tech company not know how many times I open my fridge. I would rather them not know that I went into my fridge at 4 a.m. when I came home from the bar and sifted through it 20 minutes later because I wasn't satisfied with my snack. Like, I don't want them to have that information, you know?
I finally got, because I wrote about the Medea air conditioner, I finally got my money back for that, and during this time used the money I got from that to buy AirPod Pros 3. But like on stream, I was just like, oh yeah, I gotta do that. But when I got the replacement, I put a weird little dongle I had to get from a guy who like lived in Ukraine. Like Cloud Free, I think is the name of it. And now I have it reporting exclusively to Home Assistant, and it gives me a graph of power consumption. And I'm like, hell yes, I want this data. I want to know how much juice it's taking up, so I can just fine tune it in ways that, like, I find soothing. It's like stimming. It's great. But like, I don't want fucking Medea to know that shit. I want me to know that stuff.
Right. Well, that's the whole thing with like these fitness trackers and like these smart appliances. I want the information.
I love data.
I'm curious.
I love data.
I love data.
Just don't, it's my data.
Will happily plug that into like make my own little spreadsheets and like make my own like at-home data visualization like I did when I was unemployed last year. But I just don't want tech companies to have it, you know? And I don't want them to have to sell it. And like,
it's none of your fucking business. It's none of your business.
Right?
And I don't want to.
It's my data.
And I don't want to have to fucking use a piece of paper unless I really want to, because it's useful to write things down. But I don't want to fucking store it like that. That's bad.
Man, this is again why I advocate for my Notes app centric life, where all the information that I keep goes right into the Notes app. And maybe, I guess, theoretically Apple could gain access to that, but like, it's not super comprehensive. Because I think that maybe we've all been convinced that we want a lot of data in service of that data being sold to companies, bought and sold by them. Like, do we really need it, or do we have a simpler life?
Yes, we do. We need it. I need my fridge to run Obsidian. I need it to run. I need shit logsec. I need it to be synced up to my NAS. And my Proxmox.
These are words that medieval peasants didn't know.
Yeah,
and
good.
I think that I want to only know their words.
Medieval
They
peasants
seem to be onto something.
Medieval peasants would have loved,
and they lie in a ditch for 4 hours.
No, they would have loved OPN Sense, man. If they had ran their own router, they would have loved that shit. They would have gotten access points. They would have been running OpenWRT. Like, if you are you kidding? Monks would have loved Wi-Fi.
And like a handful of talkies would have just taken out a medieval peasant.
Monks spend like 20 years making a book. You don't think they would like love running an instance of Home Assistant? Fucking Canticle for Leibowitz ass.
There's probably some like crossover between like furries and IT and monks. Somewhere in there. There's some crossover.
I think the furries are the monks of our time. They wear
I agree.
cowls.
That's a good take.
They wear
That's
cowls.
True. Even in really hot weather. It doesn't matter where they are.
They are dedicated.
They don their ceremonial robes.
They believe in, I guess, like the beauty of animals, like they're Franciscans, and furries also are oftentimes the keepers of knowledge when the rest of the world goes dark. They're literally like the monasteries that saved all the shit that was like burning in Alexandria, but for like how to make software work or how to emulate stuff. Like monks and furries are fundamentally
the same.
similar.
Yeah, and that's the take. Yeah.
That is
Maybe
the
that's
take.
what I'll bring back Rat House. Is just my 7,000 word treatise on monks and furries.
I did want to briefly return to a serious topic, though, only because I'd be remiss if we didn't touch on this element of the kind of, larger Charlie Kirk story. I saw like Bloomberg posted an article today kind of going through like what is presumed to be the killer's Steam account. Obviously, again, at least a couple of the memes on the bullets referenced Helldivers. And so I think for a while there's been this prevailing attitude of like, going through like their Steam library, seeing what games they played. Like it doesn't really matter in the grander scheme of somebody like killing somebody else. But then you have this instance where there's a direct link. And so I think there's going to be much more of a temptation to make assumptions there. And then, of course, now you have like the United States government summoning, like Discord, Valve, Twitch, etc., to a hearing, all of these things. And so that in mind, I mean, do you feel like the gaming element of this is more relevant than it was to kind of, these previous instances where like, yes, a shooter was a gamer, but like it wasn't necessarily, anything that directly influenced their actions? Because I mean, my feeling is in this case, that's still not really true. The person is a gamer, they're steeped in gamer culture, but it's
I
not
think
like
it's more,
I'm imitating this video game. It's more like
yeah,
they are just, this is where they're from. And as a result, in
right.
the absence of other information, it's easy to be like, well, here's what we know about them. Therefore, it must have led to the killing.
I mean, it's a correlation versus causation thing, right? Like statistically, and I don't have hard stats, but statistically, probably a large portion of young men who are online will also play games. And a large portion of young men who are online, or just young people in general, like will use Discord. A large portion of young people who use Discord and are online will probably watch Twitch streams, right? Like these are all like natural, I think, spheres that overlap. I don't think they're like inherently radicalizing. I think it's just like a lot of people do this. It's like saying like, well, like this alleged shooter had a phone, and so phones are bad. It's like, well,
Fine,
a lot
then we
of
can
people
ban them.
do.
Let's go.
I want to know how the shooter is radicalized by the 126 hours he played in Power Wash Simulator.
Yes, me too.
I think
I mean,
Square Enix has a lot to. I think they own them now, right?
I'm not sure, but
I think they had a
I
Final
think
Fantasy crossover.
yeah, they did. But yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff in Power Wash Simulator. So I'm sure that there are coded messages that tell people to kill.
But yeah, I don't.
I
It is really funny.
I don't know.
We're gonna just do the like night trap shit again. Like I think I saw. Aren't they gonna? Who's going to Congress? It's like fucking the Discord
Yeah,
guy, the
it's
Reddit
Discord,
guy.
Steam. Well, they're not
Twitch.
going necessarily. They've been summoned essentially.
They have been
They
summoned.
have
I'm
not been
sorry.
subpoenaed. They have not been subpoenaed
Mhm.
though. So like, they're not required. They could just say no. But the impression I get is that usually, when companies get asked to do this, they're like, well,
Yeah. I mean,
there's
the
a lot
Twitch
of
one
pressure.
really,
We probably
like,
should.
was confounding to me, I think. I mean, there was a guy who like used to stream himself singing Bella Ciao
Yeah.
on Call of Duty, but he like wiped his whole all of the clips of that, which is
Mhm.
probably like smart, but at the same time I'm like, I don't think that necessarily is causing people to be radicalized. Like a guy like with a cello in the background singing while playing Call of Duty, I don't think that that's
Right.
necessarily radicalizing people. It's like these like root causes that Aiden was talking about in our show, like they're not being addressed, and they're
Mhm.
not going to be addressed by cracking down on video games by saying like video games bad.
Right.
I will say if I did hear that Gabe Newell was on that list, and I do want him to go to
Yes.
Congress wearing the like Nike goggles and the weird slick back hair. I hope we get to see a new Gabe. Like I hope he.
I really
unveils-
hope we get a new Gabe,
I
too.
want a new Gabe. It's been a minute since he's because he used to be kind of a bigger guy, and then he became Santa Claus, and now he's kind of thin. He's got like. He's that Zep-bound Gabe, and he's got that like slick back hair. Maybe he's just been taking care of himself. He's been in the sun.
Yeah. Well, he's yacht pilot Gabe.
He's
now.
Yacht Gabe. It's Yacht Gabe. We're in
Yeah.
Yacht Gabe. I want to see if
Pastel shorts.
I want to see him. Yeah, I want to see him come wearing like confusingly hype beastie stuff and being like and saying something like weirdly
because he's got to have his like
cryptic and
his
pithy.
like. Yeah, he's got to have his like modern like Mark Zuckerberg
God,
era.
yeah.
So
I
he
was
needs a
gonna
gold
say, like-
chain. He needs like all that stuff.
Yeah.
He needs to be into MMA now.
I do like Gabe's current look because it's just like he just got like Nike sunglasses and Nike glasses and like basically just wears a loose button up, and I think
Mhm.
he slicked his hair back. That's basically all the current Gabe I saw was, and
What
I
if he
like that
shows
for
up
him.
like what if he shows up in the TikTok performative male fit, you know? With
Yes, let's
like the
go.
Labubu strapped him, the little like painted chip nail polish,
Yeah, he's got concerns about feminism.
the
He's wearing a book
big
or
linen
reading a book.
pants, you know?
He has a
Yeah.
really special
Yeah.
skibbity
The
toilet,
bell jars
Labubu.
tucked in. Yeah,
He
exactly.
gets to use it. He's the only person who actually gets to like do anything with skibbity toilet just from copyright perspective because it's all Gary's mod shit.
um, but no, I think that, to kind of close out this topic, I think the most telling piece of reporting that I've seen on all of this was Ken Klippenstein's piece about like the Discord that the killer was allegedly in, and the conversations that occurred between people in that Discord, and also like just kind of his friends' takes on him. And they were like, yeah, he never really seemed all that political. And also like our Discord had people of like a bunch of different political valences, and like, we didn't actually talk about it that much, but also didn't really affect us. Like it wasn't the main. We just sort of like hung out and talked about video games and stuff, and like that was our thing. And like I think that that's very telling of all of this is like that, you don't have to necessarily be a kind of political radical to still be driven kind of insane by our current moment. Like, this is bad for everyone. And like we were talking about earlier, I think that it just leads to this prevalent nihilism that, if one thing pushes you too far or a few things do, then that can lead to violence, especially when there's not another like kind of valve you can turn to lessen all of this pressure that's being put on just people in society in general when things are this fucked.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like what we said earlier with like Luigi Mangione, right? People were joking that Luigi Mangione was the OG radical centrist. But I think
Mhm.
it's less that. And I think like he and the alleged killer were all like, they're just guys who have been subjected to a system that is very broken and decided to retaliate in a horrific and violent way that isn't right. But at the same time, like these all of the discussions we're having are really missing those core causes of the
Mhm.
reason that they are retaliating.
Yeah, well, that's because I think, especially for mainstream media, to talk about that element of things, they'd have to accept a degree of culpability, at least implicitly, if not explicitly. And they sure as heck do not want to do that. So they're going to point the finger at the typical scapegoats, like video games.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
they, you know,
I really this is a really confusing moment because I feel like I mean, I think that like a lot of the far right are going to be like are already doing the sort of like Dave Portnoy, like, well, this isn't woke and it's not cancel culture because it's different, and they're all able
Hmm.
to sort of like compartmentalize this. But I think a lot of people just straight up don't like this, in particular the right, because they realize that like, oh wait, this might impact hate speech laws, and they
Hmm.
love hate speech, and they don't like laws about hate speech, and it's like, wait a minute, I use hate speech, and they gotta like so there's this weird thing where you're getting like opportunistically getting your Karl Roves, your fucking Barry Weisses, your like all of these people who see that this is a really fucking dumb move for the right long term, and are
Hmm.
like, fuck, okay, we gotta, but also just because it's an easy layup, they can do the thing where it's like, I actually really don't like this, like
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
also, the right has been
disingenuously.
engaging. The thing about that though is like the right has been engaging in cancel culture and things like that far longer than like they just started projecting it onto the left so that they could say, oh, we're free speech crusaders, when that has never actually been true.
Of
So I
course.
mean, they're just rebranding a tactic that they've always used. They're giving it a fresh coat of paint in regards to saying, oh, well, like yeah, we hate cancel culture, but the left is now engaging in assassination culture. So this is the only thing we can
Yeah.
do to fight back while still maintaining a degree of civility. All of which is nonsense. But like,
Yeah.
I don't think that they're gonna. I don't think this will be unpopular for them for long. Unfortunately, I think that
I
they are already doing the necessary mental gymnastics to be like, hell yeah, this is good actually.
I don't know if I
I mean, you
agree.
see
I
guys
don't know
like
if I agree fully because I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
oh no, I was saying you see guys like I think you see more like not like centrist or moderate, but like less extreme people like Dave Portnoy saying things like,
Hmm.
well, cancel culture is actually when you dig through people's old like
Yeah.
tweets and that's when, and you pull them up, that's cancel culture. This isn't cancel culture. But then you see people on like the extreme, you know, like Candace Owens. You see like Tucker Carlson. They're the ones who are suddenly free speech crusaders. And I think it's because like, yeah, these like crackdowns on free speech would affect their ability to engage
Mhm.
in hateful speech.
Yeah, that's I also just like I don't know. I think that there's a lot of them who realize there's an easy opportunity there. This is something you see a lot with
Mhm.
the right being, you know, and anti-Israel things. Like occasionally be like, get the one like I actually think also it's like you don't really give a shit about that, but I get that you see an
Mhm.
opening here to be the like good
Mhm.
one. Um, but also this sort of is downwind of a poverty on in the center and the left. You know what I mean? Not in the left per se, but like you know, just the way that liberals sort of rolled over to not only this, but also just like all this shit. And I don't know. I don't think, at the end of the day, I don't think that, like, despite the bloody shirt, that Charlie Kirk was that popular relative to, like, say, Jimmy Kimmel. I think Jimmy Kimmel's a
Mhm.
more popular person than Charlie Kirk. And I think that's going to be a weird inflection point because you have guys that are, like, you know, like even on the right who kind of liked Kimmel, even though he was like a lib, you know what I mean? Or like liked him
Mhm.
from kind of from the Man Show, even if he's like weirdly soy now, you know what I mean? Like you get like the way this like comedians like hate being told what to do, and I think you're going to have we're experiencing something that feels like a perverted version of
Mhm.
like late 90s like censorship weird realignments, and it's not coherent, it's weird and twisted, but like I do think it's going to end up being broadly unpopular. Whether or not that matters
Mhm.
is another story though.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
something else to keep in mind about kind of the effectiveness of all of this, and this is again coming from my own domain, what I've been researching for the sake of a piece that I'm hoping to publish soon, is that like looking at kind of these, you know, the cancellation movements that have come out of this with regards to video games in particular, like these, you know, people like Asmongold and Mark Kern trying to get a bunch of different developers fired, a bunch of different personalities removed. You know, they're going after Hassan, people like that as well. Um, is that like they already seem to be running out of steam.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've only really like gotten in one high profile case somebody fired, and then like you know Hassan is still on the platform. He's streaming right now to 50,000 people. Um, and then like all these other developers, some of them have definitely been harassed into like you know locking their accounts or like going offline for a little bit. But I cannot find anyone who has been actually fired or let go as a result of these mob efforts. And on top of that, they like made their list of like people on Steam or like developers on Steam to go after because they said a mean thing about Charlie Kirk. And it's like, okay, you would think
Yeah.
this is going to result in like these just like colossal review bombing efforts because there's like 26,000 people following this list or something. No, the review bombing efforts are sad. They are like 8 negative reviews on a game that has like 20,000 positive reviews. It's like a drop in the bucket, if even that. And so it's like I think that at least in games, people are already not caring as much as they seemed like they did, if they ever really did. And I think that's both a byproduct of Charlie Kirk himself and also the way that the right has trained its apparatus. People need a new outrage every week. And I saw somebody making the comparison of like, it is very funny and disturbing that the right gets equally upset over the green M&M, Cracker Barrel, and somebody getting assassinated. And it's like, yeah, part of that's by design. So they have this well-oiled outrage machine, but it needs new fuel all the time. It runs out of steam really fast. And like, can they maintain an entire like, you know, fascist movement with this apparatus, which is different than the apparatus that, you know, previous fascist movements used? And like, that's an open question. I don't
You
know
know,
the answer,
you know who
but
cares?
it's,
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I was just going to say, I derive some sort of weird, small amount of hope from that, that these
Yeah.
people struggle to maintain kind of momentum and pace when they are not constantly getting something new.
The
Yeah.
people who this worked on is like Ezra Klein. That's who it worked on. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like the right doesn't is too their synapses are fucked up to so bad that they can't like pay attention. Like everybody's fried. Everybody's
Mm-hmm.
fried. Nobody has a long-term vision of politics. And the people who actually do this are like the weird civility centrists who are like, well, you probably shouldn't do that. Or like the weird people who are so bought into MAGA that they will work against things that like they don't fundamentally believe in. I don't know. I think it's more just like even Trump can't fucking pay attention to this shit. And like
Yeah.
the people leading this are like Vance and Miller. You know what I mean? It's not Trump. It's like his weird underlings. And I think that speaks more to when Trump finally passes away or is unable to hold office anymore. Like the George H.W. Bush from Reagan jump we're going to have when that actually transfer of power happens, because it's just going to be like a weird hole in that party. And I don't know if
Yeah.
it's going to be able to maintain any energy because they clearly can't gin it up.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, like the loyalty is to Trump himself. It's
Yeah.
not necessarily to the rest
Yeah.
of anyone else in the party.
He didn't even go to the fucking, he just doesn't give a shit. He doesn't
Yeah.
care. He wants to play golf.
Yeah. He also just doesn't care about dead people because
Does
dead people
not.
take attention away from Trump.
He
Mhm.
cares about his
Yeah.
own dead self in the future.
Right.
And if he going, if
Well, yeah,
he's
he
going
wants to get into heaven.
He wants to go into heaven.
Yeah. Yeah, he's really working hard on that.
He's going to
Anyway.
accept the light of Allah and on his deathbed. And,
All right. Chris, do you want to tell us about Silk Song and your impressions of it? Although first, Morgan, because you are here and we do have one more segment that it would be good to have you around for later in the mailbag, I do want to involve you in the video game talk.
I can't wait.
Yeah. Have you played Silk Song?
I
You obviously have seen all
have
the
not.
memes and everything because
I
that's
have.
your area of expertise.
I have.
Yeah.
It's funny. I have it in my cart right now, but like all games, I can't casually game. I buy them and I hold on to them until I have like time, and then I play them for 100 hours straight, and then I don't touch them. It's unless it's The Sims, which I go back to like twice a year. But it happened with like Tears of the Kingdom. I bought it and I didn't touch it until I got laid off last year, and then I finished it in a week and a half. And then I've had Baldur's Gate, like just in general. I haven't opened it once because I'm like I need to set aside time. I need to like that's my like I'm not gonna leave the house for like a week and a half. So it's in my cart because of the memes.
Excellent.
But who knows if I'll ever. I have like 4 more games to get through that I have to obsessively play.
All right, now Chris, sell her on it or don't. You can dissuade her too.
Yeah,
whichever
try
you
and convince
prefer.
me to play it casually.
Yeah, prove
Okay,
her wrong or right.
So like I've been trying to parse out my feelings about this game because like I like it a lot. I like it a lot. I like it way more than I liked Hollow Knight generally. Hollow Knight just kind of slid off of me. I didn't really enjoy it that much. I like respect what it was doing. It didn't. Silk Song's really good, and it definitely feels like somebody in like a weird bubble just making somebody could said it was a kind of like Hotline Miami 2, where it's like, all right, we're just gonna like go into a monastery and then just make this and then come out and it's going to be like the same game but more in certain ways. I like it a lot. I think it does incredible stuff with world building. I think it does really beautiful things with the universe that feel sort of, I hate saying from adjacent, but the kind of like post-lapsarian like bug world culture is really beautiful, and like the sort of faith structures that exist. These are like we're very, very Catholic bugs. But
Yeah, they have little rosary beads and everything. It's fun.
and you
Oh,
can
I
tell
kinda
which
love
bugs are. You can tell which bugs have sapience or whatever the insect version of sapience is, because those are the ones that have rosaries, and so it's like, okay, those bugs know what God
Cute.
is, and those bugs don't know what God
They
is.
have souls.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
Unlike
Kierkegaard
veggies
was
and
very
VeggieTales.
explicit about this in Fear and Trembling. It's just very immediacy.
I have a question, and is it as to start off, because this is another thing with games for me, which is why I'm like terrible at actually playing them when they're currently in the cultural zeitgeist. If they're a little bit hard at the beginning, I give up. I'm like, bored. Move it on.
It's going to be a little bit hard in the beginning.
Ugh, that's annoying.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
probably
I like a
going to
pretty
roll off
game.
of it. It's good. I mean, it's a good game. Okay, so I think like the game came out, people loved it, and I think it has this like army of people who are like ready to love this game. And I think now that there's been like a little bit of time to digest it, it's kind of going the other way, and people are like, it has problems. And I think that I don't I always hate the way difficult games discourse goes because that hasn't been interesting in like 10 years. Like whether a game is difficult, I don't care. I don't care. I think it's the way I've been thinking about it internally is that I'm a pervert. I'm a freak and a pervert. And I've been trying to wrap my head around this thesis because it's like I like the gaming equivalent of somebody taking a car door and slamming it on my hand over and over and over again. But
Bravely
the
coming out
problem,
as a freak.
right? I love being a freak. The problem with being a pervert, though, is that it's not like a dial or like a line. It is a deeply personal thing, and to be a pervert is to accept a bunch of horse shit, and then for something really tiny to piss you off. And it's not even that it's a bad thing. It's just not the thing you're into. And it's a thing that you don't like about a game, and it's just a little annoying. And that's my experience with Silksong. It has these little tiny things that I don't like. And that I don't want to say are bad design because I know they're made by perverts. And I know those perverts really like that thing that they're doing. Because they like their bullshit. They like their bullshit. I don't like that bullshit. I like other bullshit, but I like a lot of the bullshit in the game. And I have a list of things that I think like I've seen other people talk about. But the funny thing is I was kind of complaining obliquely, and then I saw my friend Kyan, who made I Want to Be the Guy and various other games, be like, nah, it's just fine. This is fine. I
Want to Be the Guy is like one of the most notoriously difficult games ever.
But kind of that comes from a background of loving bullshit. You know what I mean? Like loving old, clunky, weird platformers. And that to me is the thing. Is there's a clunkiness that, you know, you love your clunkiness. And so the design decisions often become arbitrary. I do think, though, I have some things that I don't like. One is there's two forms of currency in the game. One is shards that animal bugs drop, and rosaries, and those are mainly dropped by human bugs,
like
bugs with souls, and
soul bugs,
The
consciousness.
Christian bugs. Sanctified,
and sort of
bugs.
and weirdly like animalized formers. It's hard. It's metaphysical. It feels very Bloodborne, but it feels like a Bloodborne thing. It feels like a Blood Vials thing. It feels like a Quicksilver Bullet thing. It's a thing. You have tools and they're refilled by shards, and the exchange rate on those fucking sucks. And the tools are really useful if you're trying to get right over a boss fight and you just need that extra pump to get over, but you don't have it in you because you suck as a player. The problem is you need a lot of shards to refill your tool or tools, and it's an almost punishing grind to get it. And it only works for the tools, and that tool grind, you technically don't need to do that. You can get the more efficient way to do it is to get rosaries in one farming location, go to a different vendor in either like the fucking lava section or like this weird animal guy, and then exchange those for shard bundles, which then will get you through that. But the problem is the exchange rate sucks. It's not like Sekiro with the little spirit emblems or that where it's like, oh, I'll just get a couple of them. No, you have to kind of take time to do that. And the rejoinder to that is, okay, well, you should just learn how to do the encounter without tools. But that's a pervert argument for why that happens. And the thing is, the economy for it sucks and it doesn't make sense. And honestly, if they had just made it so that when you sit down, because when you get the shards, you don't immediately fill. You have to go to a bench to craft them with the shards. And so the shard system only makes sense in the context of being at the bench. So it's not something you can refill on the go. So why not just make it automatically refill every time you go to a bench and get rid of the shard economy altogether? And the answer is because they wanted to do that shit. And I'm fine with that, but I don't like that shit because it's annoying and it puts friction in there. And while I agree with the idea of like you should learn how to not rely on tools, I still think it's a bad mechanic. Also, like, okay, so there's it has a Dark Souls. There's a Dark Souls thing. You die, your cocoon's there. You have to do a corpse run. Okay, that's great.
You do like
we
a
all
run
love
back.
it.
I've seen a lot of people complaining about that in particular.
So,
or at least complaining about certain segments.
Yes, I agree. It's annoying. Whatever. That's by design. I'm fine with it being annoying. That's the thing. I'm fine with it being annoying. It has to be annoying the way I like. There's this thing where if you like, I learned, and it's always been. I think it was in Hollow Knight. you can just, if you want to go back to the last bench, you just save and quit and then just reload your game, and you will have all the rosaries that you got from your corpse run back at the bench that you saved at last, which saves you a lot of time. But why isn't that just an item? Why is that a thing you have to do? And the answer might be...
Yeah, like with your game console.
Well, or just like, hey, here's a little thing so you don't have to go into 2 menus to do it and reload the game entirely. And the answer might be they want it in the game, but not in a way that's obvious or accessible, which I can kind of respect. But it's already in the game, so who cares? So just put it in there and maybe make it a little thing you can get that makes it slightly nice. And that's the thing. It's like, well, it's already in there. You could put a fucking thing in there. A lot of people are complaining about the runbacks on bosses. There's like 3 that suck. There's one early on that sucks conditionally. Like if an NPC is there, there's not an enemy. A runback, for people who don't, you're like, okay, there's a big area gauntlet that you have to run to, usually for a minute before you get to the boss, instead of the boss checkpoint being right before the boss, like most modern Souls games. And From kind of got better at that. And I understand the utility of a run back because it gives you a moment to think between your attempts. You sort of do that. The problem is they're fucking annoying. And that's also sort of a thing that, like, is a Silksong thing. And I respect them making an annoying one. And each of them has a little thing that makes that run back slightly less bad. The one that people really don't like, I think... There's 2 that people really, really don't like. One is the one right before the hardest boss at the end of Act 1. And that one, like, takes a minute to do every time, which sucks. And there is a weird little chimney shortcut you can go up that makes it, like, take 20 seconds less each time. But it still sucks. But I understand why they did it, because it's, like, this big, elaborate thing. It's supposed to be the end of the act. I get it. I just think it sucks. And then there's one in a swamp area that is the most sadistic shit I've ever seen. And that's the point... but also it's annoying, and also I don't like it. And this is, again, these are preferences. These are preferences in how I want to be punished. Because I love being punished by this game. There's a lot of ways I like being punished. I just don't like being like mildly annoyed by the game. Also, something I've noticed many people point out. Okay, so you get movement abilities. I think they are distributed weirdly. I think they don't give you your dash quick enough. I think that should be in the first town you get to. That's a separate thing. There's a part where you get, like, a cloak, basically, and it does the Mario 2 Princess Peach float, and it's one of the funniest fucking animations I've ever seen. It's great. Hornet's basically just, like, hanging out with her dress, just like, whoop. It's really funny. It's people have already done art where Hornet has the big shoes on and is doing the float. But later you get a double jump on top of the float, and so the second input no longer does the float. So it fucks with the muscle memory you spent like half of the game learning, which is to just jump, dash, float. And instead you have jump, dash, double jump, float. And apparently at one point I'd heard, I would need to check this, that like holding it would have done that, and then they play tested it out, but I don't know if that's true. But like, I hate doing that. I fucking hate that. Don't do that. I was using that. I was using that. I don't know. Also, there's like a long conversation about contact damage. I'm of 2 minds. I think contact damage is when you touch a boss and it hurts you. And I don't like that it's 2 masks of damage. But
that's your health meter.
That's your health meter. You get like, I think like 4 or 5 natively.
Yeah.
I do agree that health is arbitrary. And that like, and I saw a big graph of somebody in a game design perspective being like, this is why it doesn't actually matter. Because ultimately, 2 masks of damage, you're still, basically you have 3 hearts. If everything does 2 masks, blah, 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 blah. I get it. I fundamentally, on principle, think that if something touches you and it does damage, it should do the least amount of damage possible. That's just a thing in my heart where it feels wrong. And that's the thing.
As opposed to when it attacks you. You're saying when it touches you without intending to do damage, then it should do less damage.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've also heard that the cooldown on the iframes that you get from, you know, when you in a game, sometimes something will hit you and you get like a half a second of invincibility. I have heard, but need to confirm with testing, that the iframes you get from contact damage and hit damage are different, and I think that's just wrong. I think that's incorrect. I'm sorry. That should just be one thing.
Question. In knowing, you know, knowing what you know, right? Like with all the clunkiness of the game, with all these like little intricacies you have to get over, and how much time should I allot to like obsessively play and then forget about it forever? Or is
I
it the kind of thing I'll obsessively play and then like be like, I hate this. And then 2 weeks
well,
later I'll be
Eh,
like
so I don't
obsessively playing
know
again.
because the thing about fucking Hollow Knight and Silksong is that like you never know who it will give the madness rune to. It's really weird. It's like even more so than Souls games where it's like somebody just becomes like a freak but only for one game. Like Hollow Knight, I'm always surprised at who's like a cultist about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, although
And
people in chat were just saying that like the original Hollow Knight, while it definitely was difficult in places, like there were also elements of it that you could describe as like, kind of relaxing to play.
mhm.
And they said conversely, Silk Song, you can't really say that about.
No,
Like it's a much more stressful experience.
I think so, yes.
Yeah. And so as a result, I feel like maybe even if Hollow Knight is a game that might speak to you, Silk Song might not be. Again, hard to say. You got to try it for yourself.
It's true. Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, I'm like, is this clunkiness something I'll like learn to get over and like just kind of feel attached to the game enough to feel like held hostage by these mechanics, or is it like actually going to be a deterrent?
I don't think I think you if you've not played Hollow Knight, I'd probably just try that because it seems like I don't know. It depends.
yeah.
You might like it. I don't know. I don't know what goes on in people's minds. I would guess if you are. No, I really don't. You never know. And I
Getting
never.
philosophical here.
Philosophically, I
Yeah.
never know when someone is just gonna touch something and it's gonna be like a cop touching Fent in their mind, not in real life, because it doesn't do that. But like, where it's just like immediately they turn into a werewolf or something like that. But I'd probably say like if you rub up against hard games and you don't like them, I'd probably say just this one's not very for you.
Yeah, I stopped after the first boss, not because it was especially difficult, but more just because I was like, I can see the kind of shape that this thing is going to take on, and I already
Mhm.
know that it's going to drive me insane. So I'm just going to
Yeah,
opt out
because
of
there are
that
like
instead of
hard games that are
beating my head against it.
satisfying, and then there
I
are
hear
hard games that slowly drive you insane.
the thing is though, it's kind of both. That's the thing that's getting me.
Well,
Is that
like you said,
the
you're a
top
pervert,
line?
you're a freak.
I
Like,
am. I am. That's why I feel like I'm qualified to at least say this because I love abuse. I love being hit in the head with a mallet. I love when a game runs me over with a car. But like the car thing I'm fine with. It's like, oh well, what color were the wheels? Like that's the pervert experience is to be really annoyed by something really minor, really anodyne. I was thinking not to cannibalize the piece I'm writing, but I was thinking a lot about there's this quote I think a lot about. And it's said by Laurence Olivier.
Mhm.
It is all a matter of taste, and taste is not the same as appetite, and therefore not a question of morals. And this is said by Laurence Olivier as Crassius in a deleted gay scene from the movie Spartacus, when he's trying to fuck his slave actually,
Yeah.
but that whole idea of like this is a matter of taste. We're not bringing the like actual like value of the game into it. After a certain point with some of these games, like these choices become like a rune or like or a horoscope, like a thing that you judge your own self by. And it's like
Hmm.
and like there's just some stuff I'm fucking totally fine with and that never and like it's fascinating to feel where we've been like, okay, that fourth phase of the boss, that was fine. But
Mhm.
I wish the flyers in this game didn't home in a kind of annoying way. Also, I fucking hate how flying creatures in this game work because they suck when you need them to not suck, which is early on in the game, and then you get a tool later in the game that makes them not suck. But until that point, they suck to fight. I'm sorry, like they hover at just out of range. You can only really hit them with tools, or if you bait them in a very specific way, and they kind of input read in ways I hate. I'm sorry, I don't like the way they design the flyers. I think it's not the way I like my thing.
All right. Well, with Chris's sicko corner now out of the way,
I
I
really
think it's
recommend
time
this
to
game.
move
I
on
can't
to-
stress this enough. I love this
Okay.
game, but it
Yeah.
fucking makes me mad for really
Um,
minor
so
things.
give it like you're saying I should set aside like a week to really, get into it, hate it, get into it again, hate it, come around, you know, also become a
Yeah.
freak.
Also,
I
somebody
think that
said
sounds
that
like
that a diagonal up slash would have saved the game, and that's true. And that's partially why the Reaper crest is so good, is because you get an uppercut, but it doesn't hit the fucking flyers the same way, and it's kind of a ground move as opposed to a flying move. I agree. So,
All right. Anyway, now it's time for the mailbag. I'm calling it. All right. So, for those who do not know, the mailbag is a segment where readers can ask us or listeners can ask us whatever they want to. If you would like to participate in the mailbag, you can do so by subscribing to Aftermath at aftermath.site/products, and that will give you access to our Discord, where you can then ask questions. So, yeah, let's jump right in. I'm going to start with one from Joe Esposito because it ties back into our previous conversation, and even a thing that Chris said, which is that it feels like there's a weird backlash to Silksong happening from questions on whether they should have priced the game higher, to if it was quote unquote unfair to just release it with no announcement. I find these reactions bizarre. Curious to know what the gang thinks.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, like they literally just have they are in a unique situation. I feel like we talked about this a bunch. They're in a unique situation where they do whatever the fuck they want, and I find understandable if you're in the position where that impacts
Mhm.
you.
Mhm.
But like, I also don't necessarily. I mean, what the fuck would I do? I don't know. I'd probably just be like, all right, we're done. We went into we went into the hyperbolic time chamber that Goku and Gohan train in, and we've produced a game that we love to play, and hope that you like to play it. I think the weirder thing is the question that's more interesting to ask is, had the game been play tested more aggressively and more externally, as opposed to like feeling like this weird bubble, would these things I'm complaining about have survived? And would the kind of person who actually playtests this be the kind of person who basically agrees with Silksong?
Mhm.
And maybe I'm just attributing like the appearance of that, and maybe there was like a grander internal testing that I'm sort of not aware of. But it's just I want to know how much of this is, I don't know, man, we just like it, because it feels like a
Um,
lot of I don't know, man, we just like it, and I'm fine with that.
yeah, I think that also like this kind of outsized backlash feels, if not natural, then like an expected response to that army of people being prepared to just love it out the gate. Sans having even played it. Like
Yeah,
when you have that many people kind of frothing at the mouth, then it's natural that when there's anything that feels off or wrong with it, people will seize upon that and be like, man, well then fuck this thing actually. Like it's just sort of, I don't think that's necessarily the correct response, but that does tend to happen often, even when, there's less hype behind something.
I,
So,
I've been watching the subreddit a lot, and it is funny to watch the people who are like, actually, the runbacks are fine, and you need to just like. I saw somebody be like, "Yeah, this is just showing how TikTok has ruined everybody. That you can't deal with a minute-long runback." And like, I think
yeah, I
that's
saw that too.
annoying. But I also think this is just what happens when you like meme a game into being like fucking Elden Ring big, and then
Mhm.
those people play the game that probably didn't play Hollow Knight, which is a lot of people.
Mhm.
And or
Yeah.
people even just realizing like, hey, wait a minute, the thing I like about Hollow Knight is worse than this, as somebody in the chat was talking about. Like, I liked Hollow Knight, this is all the things I didn't like about Hollow Knight doubled down. And yeah, like, I think it's an inevitability. Also, there is also this element of like, I don't know, man, like, they already made their money. You know what I mean? Like, you can be mad. I think they're just,
Yeah, I can't imagine they're mad. I
they're not.
imagine they're having a
I think they might have.
fantastic time.
I think they might have already been like testing it. And
They're
also,
like, hey, Gabe Newell, can we get one of those yachts that you're selling now?
I would
While
love
you're
to
here,
see the
yeah.
Team Cherry yacht. That would be so cool. It'd be like made of bones or something. It would look like a cute HR Giger.
Cute HR
It
Giger.
is HR, like
Exactly.
Silksong is basically HR Giger babies. You know what I mean? It is like
It's an incredible phrase. I mean, you're not wrong. This is a great phrase.
it's
Yeah,
really
you've
I
really
love it.
convinced me to play this in maybe 3 to 4 years when I get
Yeah.
through the queue of other games I need to obsessively play.
I need to check the
Yeah.
mods though, because there are a lot of mods that fix this bullshit. Fix being a relative term, obviously.
Mhm.
Um, which is like the shout out to going on a PC as opposed to having to play this shit on Switch. Oh, one thing I will say, which is not a critique, but like, okay, in order to the dash and the run are the same button, and it's on RT, and I think that's incorrect unless you have like a fucked up controller like this one, where you can do like short throw triggers. You know what I mean? Where you can make them like click like a single button. Because like dashing shouldn't be on like a deep throw trigger. You know what I mean? It should just be like something you do really quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Alas. All right. From MacLeod, one of the best questions we've ever gotten, in my opinion. This is a real journey. In only a couple sentences. It's amazing. You wake up tomorrow in the body. Actually, I misread it. It's still good. You wake up tomorrow in the body of Randy Pitchford. After getting over the initial horror of your situation, you are tasked with salvaging the public perception of Borderlands 4. What's your game plan? So first of all, Morgan, have you been following the situation with Randy Pitchford? He's the head.
Fill me in.
Yeah, he's the head of Gearbox, the company that makes the Borderlands series. And so, like, you know, those games are well liked. They sell crazy numbers of copies. Randy Pitchford himself is a weird guy. For one, he's super into like Magic, not the card game, the actual act of performing it. He's a regular guest at the Magic Castle. And then for two, he just has this incredible inability. Oh yeah, there was also a whole situation where at one point people found like a USB drive that was his, like a Fuddruckers or something, and it had very bad material on it, including I think maybe not. Did it have inappropriate child material? Anyway, like really incriminating shit. Tertiarily, though, he is incapable of responding gracefully to any kind of criticism. Even the Borderlands movie, which everybody knew was terrible, he was like, it's not as bad as you all think. Stop yelling at me. And so now Borderlands 4 comes out, and it has like serious and documented performance issues. Like, you know, the frame rate drops as a result of a number of glitches in the game. But he's online being like, no, actually, it works great. Shut up. You're all wrong. He doesn't need to be doing any of this, but it's just how he acts. So if we were to become him tomorrow, how do we solve this problem that he himself has created?
I have a question. I have a clarifying question. Is this like a 24 hours 80s comedy thing where we like are next to a weird fat wishing well, or are you stuck as him?
We're stuck as him until we fix the problem.
Interesting.
And then we're free.
So Groundhog Day adjacent, like we got to get this right, but without the time looping.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I think that I don't want to get too morbid.
No, you can get as morbid as you want.
All right. Do you know Yukio Mishima? No. Sorry. I don't fucking know. I don't know what I would do with Randy Pitchford's life.
Has he done the right wing grift yet? Like, I feel like that's the natural progression.
I feel like if you're a Magic guy.
Enough people are mad, you know? I don't know. Magic Castle has some like right wingers.
Yeah, but then there's like all over the place people with that. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know. I feel like it would be like a Chris. I'd just turn the place into. I don't know. Does he have actual control over any company that could convert? I think it's all owned by EA and shit, right?
Wait, no, what? Gearbox is.
Is it self-owned? I'm sorry, not EA.
Yeah, Gearbox is independent again because
right.
they
I'm sorry.
Gone up from under Embracer. At least I believe that was the last thing that happened with them. Although, wait, let's see. Where did they end up? Are they once again independent? Founders, company, headquarters, key people. Yeah.
You said Take-Two? 2K? Who the fuck
so whatever.
In a scenario in which I am able to do this, I would do, you know, Bob's Red Mill?
No.
Okay. Have you ever gone into a health food store and there's just a bunch of pouches of grains and they all have an old guy on them?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry. Here we go. Take-Two does now own Gearbox. That's
okay.
Right.
So this is not. So in a situation in which he has enough equity to do this, I would do the Bob's Red Mill thing, which is that when Bob got really old, he said, "Okay, this is a co-op now," and then retired. And everyone's like, "Great, we're gonna put you on the bag forever." Because you did the only cool thing, which is to divest ownership to its employees. And then I would bungee jump and then quantum leap out. just to scare him.
Yeah. See, I think what I would do is just so the way to because like some things to keep in mind. Gearbox has been ridiculously successful because of Borderlands. The company's also been sold multiple times, meaning that Randy Pitchford has had multiple windfalls as a result. Randy Pitchford is almost certainly a billionaire at this point. He doesn't need to be doing any of this. Just pull a Gabe Newell. Leave and pursue your passions. In the case of Gabe, that was yachts. In the case of Randy Pitchford, that is magic. Go buy all the magic castles. He basically already does this. Just like make it your full-time thing. Stop being the head of Gearbox. You don't need to. Go live your life. And also delete all your social media accounts. Just,
basically. Well,
yeah.
I mean,
and then I think you're done.
This is the true answer to this. If you are comically wealthy, like, don't ever have to worry about it. Just become Richard Garriott. It worked for
Right,
Richard
buy a castle.
Garriott. Yeah, Richard Garriott
Yeah.
is probably the only good interview I did at Kotaku on video. And he came and he showed us a game that like was that weird Kickstarter game that I don't know if it came out and I don't really care. But like he mainly talked about how he had to get a second skeleton because the other skeleton he had was in Texas and his whole house is a weird funhouse mirror. Back when that was interesting. Like he has like you turn a skull and then there's like you can go through hidden passages.
Yeah, no, there was a once
Vice
upon a
video.
time I went to an indie game award show in Austin at the end of Fantastic Arcade, and he gave somebody a trophy that was literally a crossbow that I think he just had
Great.
laying around his house.
Great.
Yeah,
Lovely.
sick.
He has a barn. He's like his house is on the highest point in Austin, which I guess is I don't know impressive or not. I don't know. You can see all of Austin there.
Texas is not a very
Well,
it's a
I guess
very
what I'm
flat
saying,
area,
the
so-
one he's got on the one hill
It's
is
like
what I
5
mean to
feet
say.
above sea level.
He's got it. He's like 20 feet up. And he has a barn that has the largest private collection of automatons, like early 20s robots, and yeah, do some fun shit with it. I don't know, man. People don't know how to have fun.
No, they really
Yeah.
don't.
If you have that much money, why are you tweeting? Like,
Don't have
Right.
go
to.
offline, right?
Fucking go on a
At least
boat.
tweet under a puppet account, like anonymously. Become a Stan account, you know?
There's so much more to life, both online and off. So
It's
yeah,
true.
we would just do that. The problem is, of course, that Randy would then regain control of his body afterward and immediately return to his old bad habits.
That's why I
Or,
want
you
to
know.
give him
Or maybe he'll find
PTSD.
so much joy in being like the head of the Magic Castle and never tweeting under his own name that he'll be like, wait, this rocks. Why would I ever go
maybe.
back?
That's my bungee plan is that you quantum leap out of the bungee. Like you go into the bungee and then your soul leaves the body and then he just wakes up and it's like, whoa. And you hope you put the fear of God in him.
In this scenario though, where you wake up as him and you have to get over that initial shock, what if there's a world in which he wakes up as you and is
Oh,
suddenly
true.
like, like co-owner of Aftermath, like all content is suddenly
Chris, you've
suddenly
been
Yeah,
writing a
suddenly
lot of
it's
blogs
platform.
about
Borderlands.
Chris, you've been writing a lot of blogs about how sleight of hand is epic.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, you've only used one headline for the past 8 of your blogs. It's just sleight of hand is
There's
epic.
a lot of compound swears in the headlines pitching Slack room. Compound swears.
All right. From I Once Was a Cat. Do you have a naming convention for devices in your home/network? I like using the names of herbs myself. Herbs or herbs. I guess it could be Jim Spanfeller or it could be a plant. I'm not sure which they mean. But anyway, I don't. I just go with the default names.
I do,
do.
but for infosec purposes, I'm not going to tell it. But it's a very
Yeah.
good thing, and it's based on one particular intellectual property that is very fond to me.
Yeah, I will say my Roomba has a very funny name that I won't share just in case. But my fridges, I haven't named my fridge yet, so I am taking suggestions for my terrible fridge that won't stop beeping at me.
If you
And
have,
if it's all hooked into the Samsung network, you should just call it Sam.
if
Oh,
you
that's boring,
have,
though.
if you have, I will say an old thing I used to do because this really doesn't matter as much. I don't do it anymore. But if you have hard drives, I love naming hard drives, and I used to do the three wise men, like Balthazar, Melchior, Gaspard,
That's pretty sick.
and because that's also the three computers from Neon Genesis. But I haven't done that in a while. So
Let's see. Okay, from Jason Sans Argonauts. When was the last time you did something that made you feel really dumb? I can answer this. When I was at Ren Fair, I was like, because you go to Ren Fair and you get very drunk. So I was already pretty drunk by this point, and there was some random guy who walked up like behind us and said what sounded like my name and waved in my direction, and I acknowledged him. And I was like, I don't recognize this person at all. This is very weird, but at the same time, I don't know. I've lived a rich life. Maybe I met him at some point in the past.
You
And then he
have.
proceeded to walk right past me at like almost shoulders touching distance. And so I was
That's
like,
brutal.
and he just went right by. And I was like, so I totally misread that interaction. And this is awful. Like, nobody cares except me, but man, just terrible. So embarrassing. And then I did my best to get on with my day, but I will not lie, that just lived in my
It's been
that
haunting you
interaction lived
since.
in my head rent free for the remainder of my time at Ren Fair.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I mean, I lock myself out of my work email about every 3 months whenever we get the
Oh.
about 10 days after we get the in 10 days your password will expire. You
Mhm.
must reset.
I also
It's happened multiple times.
I have an answer, and then it like dropped out of my head because I saw a gold statue of Trump holding a Bitcoin that is apparently now at the Capitol.
Yeah,
And it
Yeah,
looks
it is
really
real.
bad.
I was like, surely this is AI generated, right? It must be.
They probably AI generated the initial design, then they made it.
But I think the thing I did, I don't know. I went to a techno festival last week, as is
Mhm.
my wont every September, and I did manage to rave for 3 days on the iWalk 3 and these trekking poles. But it
Mhm.
was like, okay, I had to cross a rope, like not a rope bridge, but like when a bridge is like a dock,
Mhm.
multiple times on a peg leg and trekking poles. I had to cross the bridge to like the wooded grove
Uh-huh.
where the other stage was, and every time I'm like, the fuck am I doing? It's just like, what the fuck? You have a broken foot, dude, and you're gonna get like you're peg legging. But I did it. I fucking did it. It was just I really focused in. I like locked the fuck in.
Yeah. No, and I'm not gonna lie. When I like thought about the idea of you going to that festival with a broken leg and like tons of
Foot.
people around who maybe like were not checking their blind spots on account of, substances or whatever,
Oh yeah.
I was like worried. I was
No,
like,
no,
is
no,
this
no.
gonna be okay?
I
Is this
had
foot gonna
to.
get broken again?
I did have
Oh my
a
God.
not insignificant
The
number of
other foot.
people graze the foot because, like, when you have the peg leg out, like the foot kind of
Yeah,
sticks
it's like
out.
out back.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
out
it
back. And
protrudes.
so I had to just be really like watch my ass all the time or stay at the back of the stage or something like that. And when things got a little too busy, I had to stop. The thing I wasn't anticipating in that scenario you're talking about is the
Mhm.
number of people who came up to me and said, "You're so brave." Which was like more than a dozen in different ways. Like somebody was just like, it was cool when it was like a Spanish or Italian guy being like, "Hey man, I like that you're partying." That was like, cool. Yeah, that's sick. But then you'd get people who would like give you a note and being like, "We are aligned with our energy." And I'm like, okay, if you need
Whoa.
anything, let me know. And I'm like, did I start a cult?
I think that, did anyone hit you with like the thank you for your service?
Yeah, yeah,
No.
they
Oh,
salute
Yeah,
you.
the
no.
service of like,
But when I did break my foot the first time, I broke my foot ironically in a Department of Transportation shirt that I gotten from a bootlegger who is near one of the DOT like shops. He just sells it in
Mhm.
a fucking car across from like the DOT shop in Queens, and it's 2 for $22, which is a really nice deal, and they're really good bootlegs. But I broke my foot in the DOT shirt, and then when I was in the waiting room of the hospital, I saw a guy in union gear being like, he just kind of saluted me, be like,
not the
keep on,
stolen
brother. And
valor.
I'm like, I had to be like, well, I was in a union.
All right, a quick one from WLS. It's just a quick like housekeeping thing. I know that Aftermath journalists have a presence on Blue Sky. Have you considered establishing a Mastodon presence in addition to Blue Sky? It seems like it could help you reach a few more potential subscribers on Mastodon. I think we have an account just sort of sitting there that we don't really use. Maybe we should. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
Mastodon, yeah, seems
should-
kind of
we
odd to
should-
me. I don't know.
We should definitely add it to the social feeds.
Yeah, like we may as well just automate it. Yeah,
Just
I
so
don't know.
people.
Morgan, did you ever try
another-
Mastodon?
I think I have an account. I've never really used it because I don't know. I feel like it's like I didn't find the fun memes. I didn't find the spicy discourse on there. It was very academic, so never really stuck
Yeah.
around. It didn't rot my brain quite in like the way I was craving, you know? I think Blue Sky gets shit, you know, but
Mm.
like you find those corners where you're like, oh, that's the good stuff, you know? Like that's the stuff that's really messing with my dopamine sensors. And I
Yeah,
couldn't
let's
find
see.
that on Mastodon.
I respect
Yes.
Macedon people are correct. I just don't like really what it is. And
Mhm.
but I respect because like long term they are right. Like we are just kind of
Hmm.
like taking one company and going to the other, but like
Yeah.
that's the one that like kind of kicked off a little bit. And in the event that like Twitter dies for whatever various reasons, like that's the one that will probably survive of those
Yeah, so
platforms.
Yeah.
we actually already have a like bridge to our
Yeah,
account
Matty Boom
there.
Batty set it
So
up apparently.
all of our posts are end up there. And we have a following of where's the number? I don't know the interface of this website. This is terrible. Well, it doesn't matter. Anyway, so we sort of already exist there. Neato.
Nice.
And then lastly, from uh, Ghost Thin is what he's going by this month because, we got to do the Halloween names. Actually, I'm surprised I haven't seen more of them already. I guess it's not October yet. Whatever. Anyway, if New Jersey is the far loom of the United States, what is the hollow nest of the United States? I think this one is for you, Chris.
Wait, say
Really
that one more
thinking.
time. I don't understand the.
If New Jersey is the because are these not Hollow Knight references?
They
Or
are. I just
something?
forget where
Yeah.
I forget shit on the map, man.
Okay. If New Jersey is the far loom of the United States, what is the hollow nest of the United States?
I don't understand. I need to figure out the map. I need to get further in. I'm sorry. I mainly just it's like I don't know flush. I don't know where things are. I'm bad at directions. I know where individual sections in the map are. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? So if you ask me like a neighborhood by neighborhood thing where it's like, okay, which one of this is like Graymore? You're like
Yeah.
probably Harlem? No, I'd say Midtown.
Well, you did your best, and that's all that counts. On that note, I think it's time to wrap up the show. Before we do that, Morgan, where can people find you?
Oh, yeah. You can listen to Close All Tabs wherever you get your podcasts. And you can also find me everywhere. I'm Morgan_Sung on Twitter and just Morgan Sung everywhere else, except TikTok, where I'm Rats Over Flowers.
Hell yeah. You should switch to Rats Over Flowers everywhere else for consistency's
I
sake.
know, I used to. And then I was like, I'm gonna be a professional journalist.
Ah,
I'm gonna be so grown up about this.
that's a real shame.
I know, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been Aftermath Hours, the podcast of aftermath.site, a worker owned, reader supported website about games and the internet. If you like what you heard, you can subscribe at aftermath.site/products, or you can leave a review on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We record every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and we'll be back next week. I won't be, I'm going to be out of town, but I think the show will be back. We'll see. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, and have a good one.
Bye.